Atherosclerosis is a disease of the arteries in our bodies, in which fatty material is deposited in the walls of our arteries. These deposits produce something called plaques. Atherosclerosis causes heart disease, most strokes, and peripheral vascular disease, which is when blockages occur in the arteries carrying blood to our lower extremities. It is estimated that atherosclerosis affects 20% of the population in the United States, or 58 million people, and the figures would be consistent worldwide in many of the industrialized nations. Every year, 1,500,000 Americans have a heart attack, resulting in 500,000 deaths. Especially alarming is that 250,000 of these deaths occur within 1 hour or less of the episode. And for many, the first symptom is death. 600,000 Americans have a stroke each year. 160,000 of these victims die. And there are 4,500,000 stroke survivors in the United States, many of whom have a diminished quality of life due to the inability to speak, or who have paralysis affecting their limbs or other impairments. There are millions who have decreased mobility due to arterial blockages in the arteries that carry blood to their legs. Often just walking short distances causes such pain that they have to greatly restrict their activities. Until recently, we've had a very simplistic view about how atherosclerosis develops. It was cholesterol, cholesterol, cholesterol. If one ate a diet too high in unhealthy saturated fat, it was felt that the resultant cholesterol simply gunked up the artery until the channel carrying blood through the artery was so narrow that blood couldn't get through, and you had a heart attack or a stroke, or your legs began giving you pain. Now we have a new understanding of the atherosclerotic process. Much has been written in both medical journals and the popular press about new discoveries that you need to know about. Because there are natural nutritional supplements that you can consume that can give you a greatly enhanced probability of not being a victim of a heart attack or a stroke, or of developing peripheral vascular disease. There is an amino acid in our bodies called homocysteine. Here is the chemical structure for homocysteine. And here on the screen is a schematic of the major pathways for homocysteine metabolism in the liver and kidney. You needn't worry about remembering these last two slides. They're shown simply to let you know that much is understood about homocysteine. But here is a graphic that you need to remember because it reveals the relationship between elevated homocysteine levels in your body and the risk for heart disease. For every 3-unit increase of your homocysteine level above 6.3 micromoles per liter of blood, there is a 35% increase in cardiac risk. So, a level of 9.3, a 35% increase. 12.3, an additional 35% increase in risk. 15.3, another 35% increase. Many labs report that 15 micromoles per liter is a normal value. 6.3 is the optimal level for the risk for atherosclerosis, according to a now well-accepted article published in Circulation as far back as November of 1995. So let's walk through how atherosclerosis develops in your arteries. Besides elevated homocysteine levels, infection has now been implicated in atherosclerosis. The common infectious agents involved are herpes simplex 1 and 2, which cause cold sores and genital lesions. Cytomegalovirus, one of the causes of mononucleosis. Helicobacter pylori, known to cause ulcers. Chlamydia pneumoniae, which causes many respiratory infections. And pathogens or germs which cause periodontal disease, like the gum disease called gingivitis. And cholesterol, once thought to be the only or at least the principal risk factor in atherosclerosis, is still an important factor. On the screen, you'll see a diagram of an artery with various cutaways to reveal the internal structures. The next slide shows where elevated homocysteine in your blood has damaged the lining of the arterial wall. This damage increases the permeability of the wall of the artery, which means that it is easier for whatever is circulating in the blood to enter through these damaged areas and to get inside of the artery, into what is called the intima of the artery, as demonstrated here. If one of the germs that we just mentioned goes through the damaged wall and sets up its residence there, your immune system senses a threat, and it gets into its action mode and follows the threat. It sends white blood cells called monocytes into the wall in order to combat the threat. Monocytes get into their fighting form by converting to macrophages, which literally is translated into big eaters, because that's what they want to do, to actually remove the germs by grabbing them and eating them, as you'll see displayed here. Meanwhile, cholesterol, bad cholesterol known as low-density lipoprotein, or LDL, also enters the picture because it seeps through the homocysteine-injured arterial wall, and the higher the cholesterol level, the more that can infiltrate into the intima, the inside of the arterial wall. And then homocysteine again enters the picture. It latches onto the LDL cholesterol and it oxidizes it. Oxidation is the process that causes an apple that is cut open to turn yellow or a car to rust. Oxidized LDL cholesterol goes from being bad to being really bad, to now having the potential for being really harmful, because those big eaters, macrophages, simply can't stand the temptation of feasting on that oxidized LDL. They originally went in after the germs, but they get diverted and start gobbling up the oxidized LDL cholesterol, and they balloon up to enormous size, and if you look at them with a microscope, they literally look like they're filled with foam. That's what scientists call them, foam cells. And foam cells are what make up the plaques, which are what we know as atherosclerosis. So depending on where these plaques accumulate, you are now a perfect candidate for a heart attack, a stroke, or for incapacitating arterial disease in your legs. Here's what happens. You see this foam cell-filled plaque in the wall of your artery? Your natural healing process forms a cap over the plaque. This is an attempt to seal the plaque off, but it also adds to the size of the plaque and causes it to bulge into the area inside the artery where blood flows. Various chemical mediators get involved, and a fissure, an opening, can occur, as shown. And bleeding occurs from the damage where the fissure forms. Clotting factors cause this bleeding to form a clot, and the clot blocks the arterial blood flow. And now you've had a heart attack or a stroke, or you've clotted off a leg. Blood that carries oxygen can't get through. Cells in your heart or brain or lower extremity are deprived of that life-sustaining oxygenated blood, and they suffer injury or death. And you suffer injury or death. To find out more about atherosclerosis and to find out more about nutritional supplements that can help you avert the #1 cause of disability and death, please go to Chapter 6 in the video email library.